Hi there, my name's Tom Russell, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to our series of podcasts. Tom Access All Areas, the Tom Russell tapes. Just to give you a quick rundown, I've been in the radio in Scotland playing rock music for about 45 years, and been lucky enough to interview most of the major rock stars over the past 50 years, in fact. And we decided that some of these tapes, they'd only been broadcast once locally in Scotland, and thought perhaps some people elsewhere might be interested in giving them a listen. So we've dug them out along with my good friends Andy and Scott from GlasgowApollo.com. And on this particular podcast, we're going back to 1995. An album had just come out titled Balance, and two brothers who were born in Amsterdam, but moved over to the USA when they were youngsters with their family, had formed a band called the band Van Halen. Eddie and Alex Van Halen are the subject of today's podcast. We recorded the interview in London, and we're going to play the interview in just a few minutes, and then we'll come back, Scott, Andy and myself, and we'll just have a little chat about the interview. Anybody that wants to contribute, you can contribute to the conversation in the usual way. Scott and Andy, hi.
Hi, Tom. How you doing?
Nice to see you again.
Likewise. There's some music in the background in this interview. Where was it recorded? Was it at the gig, or can you remember where it was recorded?
No, this was recorded in a hotel room.
Was it?
In London.
Mm-hmm.
Record company again had contacted me and said, we've got Alex and Eddie Van Halen coming over to do interviews on the Balance album. Would you like to come down? And of course, hold me back, Eddie Van Halen. Yes, please. It was the only time I ever met either of the two of them.
Gosh.
And I was a little bit more nervous than I think if I'd interviewed Eddie again 2 or 3 years later, I'd have been a lot more relaxed, and I would have probably asked some more interesting questions, maybe a little bit more in depth with his guitar playing.
Mm-hmm.
But the record company said, we're here to talk about the Balance album, so please talk about the Balance album, which is fair enough.
Fair enough, yeah.
They were paying for my flight down. So. What about you, Andy? Did you enjoy listening to the interview?
I very much liked it, and I enjoyed the way you had some good questions. Obviously, I was going to say you had a good balance of questions, but that would be not good. But you did have good questions, and you didn't talk about whiskey this time, though.
No, I'm sure the two of you would be quite pleased at the section of the interview, which is just coming up in a minute. So the section of the interview when we're talking about the Glasgow Apollo.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would enjoy that when they said,
It's
the
magic.
Glasgow Apollo, is it still there?
Mm-hmm.
I remember the stage.
I like
20
that.
feet high.
Yeah. That's right. That was great. Let's get back with Black Sabbath and rebuild it, then blow the roof off. Fantastic.
What date was that? Can you remember what year it was that they played? That Black Sabbath were headline, Van Halen were support, and everybody reckoned that Van Halen blew Sabbath off the stage. Everybody was going, Van who? Wow.
I think it was on every gig of the tour that happened.
Yeah.
Really?
So it was on the 18th of May, 1978.
78, wow.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
It was 2 years before I started.
What day is it today?
It's the 20th of May. Almost to the year, guys. That's a coincidence. I mean, they got pretty much a full set as well. I mean, they did 10 songs, which is, quite unusual sometimes for support acts to get so many songs.
Van Halen songs are 3 minutes
they're quite
long.
short, right enough. Yeah, but I'd love to have been at that.
And Eruption.
Everybody talks about it, and I'd love to have been at it. They didn't do so well the next time they came, though. They were awful when they came back and headlined at the Apollo. It's also a famously bad gig.
Apparently, yeah.
And I've got a sort of an emotional.
I think they were late in turning up.
Aye.
I've got a slight emotional attachment with the band. And possibly that's what made me a bit nervous when I was doing the interview. When I started my radio career, I'd had various different careers before that, but when I started my radio presenting career in 1980, the very first piece of music that I played on my very first live rock show in Scotland was a Van Halen track. It was from the first album,
Right.
and it was Eruption, Going Into You Really Got Me.
Wow.
So that's a nice memory.
A good
have.
start,
And I think that was probably in the back of my mind when I was doing the interview. But I forgot to say to them, not that they'd have been that interested, but
No.
I would have liked to send that to them.
Yeah, it's a terrific. I mean, that's just fantastic off that first album, isn't it? It sticks out. It's great.
That's great. Anyway, let's have a listen to the interview, guys, and then we'll come back and have a little chat about it. This recorded back in 1995, recorded in London with myself, Tom Russell. The latest podcast in the series, Access All Areas of Tom Russell Tapes. This is an interview with Alex and Eddie Van Halen. That was Why Can't This Be Love from, of course, Van Halen. And our special guests are Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen. Welcome back to Glasgow.
Thank you. Thank you. You got the brothers here.
Memories of, just before we started there, we were talking about memories of Glasgow. And Eddie, can you carry on?
I remember two things distinctly. The stage must have been about 20 feet high. It was really high. It was almost scary when you walked up to the lip of the stage. And we had to knock a hole in the wall to get our lighting rig in.
Right.
Is that place still there?
Yeah. No, they knocked it down, I think it's 10 years. No, they closed it down 10 years ago. Uriah Heep were the last band to play there, rock band, and they knocked it down 8 years ago, which is sad.
Well, we helped. What's in place of it now?
There's two gigs. There's one called the Barrowland, which is a standing venue, holds 3,000, and another one's called the SEC, which is a gig like, you know, the Wembley Arena?
Yeah.
That type of gig, which...
That's cool.
It's okay. We're talking memories of Glasgow, and I've got to ask, as a band, Van Halen, mega in America, of course. But looking back, would you say that UK-wise, you've given it your best shot? I'm talking about gig-wise. I mean, you've released plenty of records, but you've tended to come over and either do the big festival, Donington, or 2 or 3 gigs, like Wembley, Birmingham.
You're talking about something really that's semi out of our control. I mean, when we have played the UK, we have given 200% when we've been here. The problem is routing, scheduling, that's management and record company. So you should ask them. You
just do what you're told.
Well,
not exactly, but...
Yeah. I mean, we're here now. We're not supposed to be, but we want to be.
We've always thought of ourselves as having a unique and special relationship with our audience, you know, and to maintain that kind of a relationship, you have to be there physically. And in that respect, you know, to try and be everywhere at the same time, yeah, like Ed said, it's almost impossible. But yet, because of circumstances beyond our control for the last 8 years, it was just impossible. But that's why we came back last year, and now we're going to be back every year. And because I don't think anybody wants to really have some kind of a connection with a phantom band, you know, where only the songs are known. I think the only person who ever did that was Elvis, and he made tacky movies, which were the forerunner to video videos, long format video.
To win the race.
What a concept! But we're here now, like Ed said, and we want to continue that.
That's Don't Tell Me, and that's the full album-length version of the single, with the leave-in the whole of the guitar solo rather than cutting half of it out for the single. And the word guitar, Eddie, perhaps some of your albums over the years drifted away from the guitar-based band that we had on the first album, the second album. And you brought in keyboards, you brought in computers, etc. Nothing wrong with it, good albums. But with this album, it's right back to use an American expression, ass-kicking, guitar-orientated, good songs.
It's a guitar record.
at the same time, your favorite song, Not Enough, is a keyboard song. So
Fair comment.
you're contradicting yourself. But I guess I understand what you're saying. It's just over the years, I play keyboards, and for a long time, we just didn't use those songs. And I think we're comfortable to the point now where we can do whatever we feel like doing. If it's a keyboard song, great. If it's not, great too. And this batch of tunes happens to be more guitar-oriented.
I think it's important to realize that from a musical standpoint and how you want to express yourself, the instrument almost, and underline almost becomes secondary, meaning that if you have an idea, if you could express it on a hammer, what's wrong with that? Of course, that's an extreme example, but I think that's the thought behind what's wrong with expressing something on a keyboard as opposed to a guitar. Yeah, the guitar is Ed's main instrument, and it's probably his favorite. I hope I'm not being presumptuous, but and he's known for that. But
I like tuba too.
yeah,
Tuba sandwiches.
yeah, right. But so we don't that aspect of should this song or God forbid somebody should think that this is not a guitar band. That's something that really does not enter our minds. But yeah, you're right. This is a guitar record, and I've said this to Ed. You know, I can't explain it, but when you listen to the record repeatedly, all you hear is guitar. I mean, but not just guitar. You hear guitar. I can't explain it. You know, it's just.
How much did Bruce Fairbairn contribute to that? Did he sit down at the meeting and say, right, I want a bit more guitar in that. Let's start this one with a riff.
Actually not. It was very much an outside ear to kind of tell us, yeah, that was a good take or this and that. He actually had a good time watching us. I mean, he did more than that. He brought a lot of organization to it, meaning this is what we're going to do today, this is what we're going to do tomorrow, which made the workplace very quick. You know what I'm saying? If we would have been left to our own devices, we probably would have been so scrambled that we still wouldn't be done with the record. But, you know, he had a few suggestions here and there, arrangement-wise, but outside of that, it was pretty much us.
Let's take another track then from the album, and this is Amsterdam. Amsterdam from the new Van Halen album that's called Balance, and Eddie and Alex Van Halen, the terrible twosome, are our guests.
Oh,
on
we have a
Quad One
nickname,
tonight.
Ed. We have a
We
nickname.
haven't done anything terrible yet.
In the past, we've just been known as the Brothers. I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, but I guess it could be used in different applications.
You don't mind me calling you the terrible twosome, do you?
Not at all. Not at all.
Amsterdam. Eddie, I think all the band are credited with writing all the songs. I've had a glance at the credits. But how do you actually sit down and write a song like that with Alex? Do you come up with the riffs and then Sammy the lyric, or what?
Yeah, it's pretty much that way, but you remove any one element, and it's not Van Halen. You know, and everything we do is a group effort. Even though obviously I play the guitar and come up with the riffs, but we all do what it takes to make it what it is.
1994 and 1995, immense changes yet again. In your 15 years or so at the top, there's been so many changes. It's all changed again, and now punk is becoming fashionable in the States again. We've gone through grunge has passed us by, and it's now punk. But Van Halen and bands of your ilk just keep going on.
It all comes around, doesn't it?
It does. It's amazing. How aware are you?
The Beatles also.
Yeah, they're still
they're back.
still great music.
Well, you know what that exactly? It's the music.
Exactly. You
You
just said it
know?
yourself, yeah.
And that's the only thing that we've really ever focused on. Not trends, not to try to be stylish or politically correct or any of those things. It's the music, you know, of a song. Because the reality of it is the song is going to be around much longer than we are, and there's a kind of not an immortality to it, because I don't think immortality is part of our mindset, but it's interesting that 200 years from now these songs may still be around, you know, and by then they'll be known as classical music.
I think when you're writing a song, you're kind of giving people a piece of yourself. And if you're not giving a real piece of yourself, like if you're contriving a song or you're trying to second guess your audience, that's a bad thing. You know, so I mean, you got to be true to your music and do what you feel is right.
And yet, can I just say one thing? Haircut.
Oh, no, we just had one. Thank you.
I've done it before. I just did it again. I got my way in the studio, got my eyes while I was playing, and I cut off the front. It looked kind of funny. I looked like Prince Valiant or something. So
I did that a few years ago.
naturally.
Looks good. Looks good on you.
Hey, it's just hair. It'll grow back, I hope.
Really? Can I have that in writing?
Hair club for men.
Just going to play another track in a sec, but firstly, can I ask, it's an unusual move to include a drum solo on an album nowadays.
Well, it's not a drum solo. It's a piece of music on drums with nobody else playing. Well, semantically or whatever the expression is, when you say drum solo, you think of an elaborate thing where a guy exercises all the things that he has learned over the years to see how great it is or how cool he can be.
It's not an exercise in speed or anything like that. It's a piece of music. It'll give you a feeling and a vibe at the end of it when you're done listening to it. And it's also an intro to the next song.
Bellucci-therium is going back to what we were talking about earlier, I was going to say that was the guitar solo, but it's not a guitar solo, it's a piece of music. Yeah. Anything to do, you've titled that instrumental piece of music, Bellucci-therium. Anything to do with John Bellucci, the actor? Is that where you got
No, Bellucci-therium means, it's the name of the largest mammal that ever roamed the planet. Not dinosaur, but mammal. Looked like a big, goofy-looking, what do you call those things? Not an elk, but a moose. Looked like
John Bellucci looked like a big goofy.
No, it's got nothing to do with the actor.
Right.
It just sounded big, and that's what we called it.
The sleeve of
It actually had singing on it. It wasn't intended to be an instrumental, but the singing just really didn't add anything to it, and it held up fine without singing, so we left it.
The sleeve of the album could be considered controversial. It's certainly stunning. And before we came on air, I asked you, was it a photograph of two real girls? Was it real Siamese
twins?
twins?
Boy and a girl. It's a boy and a girl.
But they're not really Siamese twins?
Yeah, they're Siamese twins. And balance is such a broad word. It can mean the balance of power, the balance of the planet. It can mean...
the balance amongst us
yeah.
in a band.
But I think that the most simple and accurate description of what's on the cover is basically the age-old conflict within everybody about their good side and their bad side. It's all classic writing is about. It's always about evil and good, or vice versa. And I thought the best way to demonstrate that would be to show that it's within one person, and no matter what one does to the other, it affects the other. Yeah. And on a larger scale, that's kind of what's happening on this planet. If just for one day everybody sat around and minded their own business, or at least not tried whacking somebody else over the head, things might be a little better. And no, that's not all of a sudden the band has turned super socially conscious, but we live on the planet. You can't help but see what's going on around you. And it's just an opportunity to get a little bit of that across without committing ourselves to the point where we sound like we're moralizing or that we've become socially active. You know what I mean? It's because that's not what we're about. Music is about, most of the time, it's about getting away from all the crap that you see that's going on around you. Because most people have a very basic need, and that's to be happy. And I don't think killing and doing bad things to other people makes you happy. I just don't think it's that way.
For any major band, the change of a singer is a major step, and obviously a step that you initially have to take with regret. But it's been a number of years now.
It's been 10.
10 years.
Yeah.
In fact, longer with Sammy now than you had with David.
Right.
You obviously follow David's career with interest. How do you feel? Well, you read the papers, you listen to his albums. I don't mean it any more than that. But how do you feel David's career is developing, or is going, his solo career?
I think he's done and is doing what he wants to do, and it's about that. And I actually haven't heard his records. I don't listen to a hell of a lot of anything, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
One thing has nothing to do with the other, really. It's we're doing what we enjoy, and that's it.
He was your former singer, though, so it's a
Yeah.
a logical question. But we'll move on.
And you can't undo that. And there were some great songs that were written, but the songs are still written by Ed. So.
Well, we're talking about live performances earlier on, and just a very quick one on live work. You're coming over and you're doing these Bon Jovi dates.
Well, no, we're playing on a festival. We were told it was kind of a festival deal.
Yes,
So-
with Bon Jovi, but it's only
Yeah.
a couple of dates. You're not coming up to Scotland. You're only doing London, Birmingham, and Gateshead, I think it is. Is there plans for other dates? Is the
Yes.
Balance tour going to be a 12-month tour sort of thing?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. The long haul.
Right.
Yeah. We'll be coming back on our own.
Good. So we're
To
gonna-
reopen the Apollo. Just one last time.
We'll resurrect the damn thing.
Just one more time.
We'll get the old Black Sabbath guys out, and we can rebuild it and blow the roof off.
That'd be great fun, wouldn't it?
Oh, that would be a
So we're
classic.
going to play out with, though, is as I said earlier, my favourite track on the album, and it's another one that starts with, how was it we put it, an instrumental piece.
It's just a vibe thing. You'd have to hear it to understand what I'm saying, but it's actually very non-musical, but yet it is. It just gives you a feeling, and to me, that's what music's all about. Anything that you walk away from having felt something, some kind of emotion. It's kind of an intense little piece of piano confusion. Yeah,
And then it all falls into place.
yeah.
But there's a funny
another balance kind of thing.
there's a funny story behind that. Is Ed rented a house somewhere and there was a piano in it, and the piece of music, it's called Strung Out, is actually a little slice of 6 hours of Ed dismantling a piano.
Yeah.
Not really fully realizing the piano belonged to one of America's not great composers, but he's a well-known piano player, and that piano was a very personal instrument to him. So Ed, I guess Ed was pretty sad about not realizing he had wrecked somebody else's piano. So it cost him a fortune to replace the piano, make sure that the guy was happy with it. But I think it adds a little bit more depth to what's going on. That's part of the reason why it makes sense to have included that, because out of the wreckage comes this beautiful song afterwards.
Alex and Ed, thanks for taking the time to talk to us tonight, and all the best with Balance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Well, that was a really interesting interview, Tom. Can you believe that 1995 is 30 years ago?
It's frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it was
it goes by quicker and quicker. each
yeah,
year.
they seem to. Yeah, they seem to. And it's quite scary. Remind me, what were they? Was it just for press, or were they doing Donington or something? Remind me what that was about.
It was both, I think. I think it was mainly for press for the Balance album.
Right. Okay.
Balance had just come out, and they come over to London, and as usual, record company, they would get some radio people, television people. You know, it's a major band.
Yeah.
Television people, press. Van Halen were probably at a level where your popular tabloid press would be interested.
Yeah.
Simply because they were a well-known name. They were just up above that level.
Mhm.
But I got. They told me 15 minutes. I think I got about 13.
Yeah.
And then the wee girl from the record company standing there, faces, wind up. All right, aye, okay.
Right. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Eddie, and thank you, Alex. We'll see you next time. But I never saw Eddie again. That was the only
Right.
time I met him.
Yeah. So, what was your first impression of them?
Brothers, very friendly, very. That's the word I'm looking for. Jovial. You can hear, or you could hear through the entire interview.
Mhm.
You could hear them laughing and chortling away.
Yeah.
Probably typical brothers,
Yeah.
little in jokes and laughing at the guy that's doing the interview. But
Yeah.
they were not cruelly.
No.
You know, they were just having. I think they were enjoying themselves. Part of my job at that time, I tried to always think up questions that were maybe a little bit different, and it didn't always work. Listening to a few of these podcasts now, and I realised that nearly every day I would ask, "You've got a new album out. What songs do you drop from the set, and how many of the new songs do you put in the set?" And I think just about every interview I did, I always asked that, and I hadn't realised it was so repetitive until we'd started doing these podcasts.
Yeah.
But it was just one of these questions that I would ask. But I like to try and think of something to ask that was a little bit different and interesting to the listener.
Yes. Were they there for Donington? I
Yeah.
can't remember. Did they
you-
play Donington in '95? Was that Metallica? Or I can't remember, Tom. Can you remember?
No.
No. Right. Okay. We'll need to look that up. Folks, let us know. Don't know if Andy remembers because he's a fan, but I don't remember them playing Donington again until, or ever. Did they ever play Donington again?
With Sammy?
Yeah. I don't
They
think
certainly
they did.
played.
No, they did with Bon Jovi.
Ah, right. Okay. Because I was trying to think if I remember them.
They're playing certain. They're part of a date with Bon Jovi, London, Birmingham, and Gateshead.
Ah, right. So, was that a double headliner? Was it?
Yeah, it
One of
might
the
have been a
answers they
double header, but it was a little bit contentious. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Tom.
In the interview, they actually I say something like, "Oh, and you're coming over again with Bon Jovi," and there was a little bit prickly just for a second.
Right.
They didn't like that. The impression I got was they didn't like the perception that they were coming over to support Bon Jovi.
Right.
They said, "Oh no, it was we were told it's a festival. It was ourselves and Bon Jovi and can't remember.
Thunder.
Was it Thunder?
Yeah.
And we're just doing the 3 dates, but it's festivals. And the impression very much I got was that they weren't going to say, well, we're supporting Bon Jovi.
Yes. This is a bit cheeky, but I just imagine Sammy Hagar and John Bon Jovi watching Danny Bowes smash them off the stage and then try to follow up Danny. I can't imagine having Danny as a support act. It's just, that's very British. Sorry, listeners, it's a very British comment.
And it's so sad that a band like Thunder never made it, really, in the States. They went over a couple of times in the early days, but they never quite. I don't know whether it was lack of support from record company or whether it was just they were an essentially British band. But that shouldn't have made any difference to the American public liking them. But they certainly never made it big in the States. What was that, Andy? Sorry.
They're in the Bad Company Free vein, Foreigner, that type of music. So I don't know why that wouldn't have gone over. Dirty Love, what a song!
Oh, what a song!
Empty City.
It's a classic.
There's so many good songs. I mean, there's dozens of them, isn't there? Really, when you start thinking about it.
Yeah, Backstreet Symphony, Symphony,
Moth Flame,
Better Man, brilliant.
Yeah. Oh. Sorry, I distracted us there, but it's interesting. I would love to ask them a question. When you hear somebody like Danny singing, back then, I guess John Bon Jovi could still sing. Vince was more a screamer than a singer anyway, wasn't he? But when they hear somebody like Danny singing, it must be like, fuck, how do you follow that? It's like having, Queen supporting you. It's for me, it's a lot. I know Thunder never made it huge, but they're doing Wembley a few years ago before Danny had the accident, so they were doing quite well before the accident. But I just love to know how they feel when they see somebody like that and go, my God, follow that.
But on the Van Halen interview, when I listened back to it there, and I don't think there was a little bit. I remember asking the question, but I didn't hear it in the interview. So whether I asked them the question before we started the interview, before I switched the tape machine on, or afterwards, I asked them what asked Eddie particularly what band or what got him into rock music.
Mhm.
And his answer was, he said, the first time I heard Cream,
Oh, really?
and the song was I'm So Glad,
Oh, brilliant. Right.
which was, well,
Hmm.
interesting. But
And that is interesting.
that wasn't in the interview that we've just listened to. So that
No.
must.
Tom, do you think they were, when you said the terrible twosome, did you say?
I did.
This is the terrible twosome. Do you think they went, oh no? I thought they went, oh, because you said, do you mind me calling you the terrible twosome? And it sounded like they went, yeah, sure, okay, kind of thing.
That's
But
not,
they weren't really, it didn't seem like they were comfortable with it.
I got
Yeah.
slightly the impression that in the States, where they would probably do hundreds of interviews that were called the
Yeah.
Brothers, were simply called the Brothers, was the
Yeah.
impression I got.
Yeah.
And then they come over here to the UK and somebody calls them the Terrible Twosome. And at first it was a wee bit, oh,
Yeah.
that's not us, we're the Brothers. But I don't
Yeah.
think they weren't
All
annoyed
right,
with
okay.
it or anything like that.
All right.
It was-
Right, yeah.
They were actually quite funny, as you can hear, as you could hear listening to the interview. They bounce off each other really, really well, as
Yes.
brothers do. But they really bounced well, and the laughter, mainly from Eddie. That was Eddie that was laughing and chortling all the way through.
I found it slightly difficult to tell them apart. I don't know if that's just my ears, but I was grateful when you said Eddie and then you asked a question and I knew who was speaking. I was trying to tune into them to hear who was who. The story about the piano was a good one, I thought, Tom.
Is it not enough?
Yeah.
The song that Eddie had written.
It's strung out.
Strung out. That's right. He'd rented a house to do some writing, peace and quiet somewhere, and it was a big posh house, all fully furnished, with a beautiful piano. And I think after the interview finished, I would run out of time, but as I was packing up, I asked them about what actually happened to the piano, and I think what they said was that he was trying to get a particular piano sound for the song, playing this piano in the rented house, and he would, right, no, it doesn't sound right. So he would take the lid, the big lid off the piano, and try it then. No, that's not the sound I'm looking for. So he'd maybe chop the legs off the piano and try it again. No, it's still not sounding right. Right, okay, wait, if I hit this bit with a hammer and maybe hit that, I saw this bit off. And I think by the time we finished, the piano was just a ruin.
Yes.
So when the rental period came to an end and they handed the property back, as you can imagine, the owner of the piano was a little bit disgruntled and withheld the deposit.
Alex Van Halen said he's not a famous composer, but it's a guy called Marvin Hamlish.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he is a famous composer.
He's a famous composer.
Yeah.
Mainly films and things he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I thought music for films. Yeah, look, and stage.
Kind of
So he's famous.
serves him
He's
right.
got a Grammy.
Yeah, serves him right for renting his house out to a pair of rock stars, then, doesn't it?
Actually, he's got 3 Oscars.
Has he?
So there you go.
Oh wow! Right, okay. And a newish piano by the sound of things.
And a Golden Globe nomination. When he said we had to get the piano right to the correct specifications or something, I was like, wow. How did you get it was probably a big double piano. What do you call it? A grand piano or something.
I was a little bit cheeky towards the end when I asked Eddie about his haircut. They'd obviously had a haircut, but again, they could have taken offence, but they didn't. They just had a laugh with it, and I suggested that perhaps I'd had a trim, and they just laughed about it. It was all about jokes, just good fun. a nice, enjoyable part of the interview, that was.
There was I've just had a look at something online about that strung out piece again, and it says it was actually recorded in 1984, and the piano was filled with things like ping pong balls, batteries, knives and forks. And producer Bruce Fairbairn picked out 90 seconds of the 10-hour tape recording that started with Eddie creating harmonics directly in the piano strings. Isn't that interesting? So they've been holding on to that for 10 years, guys,
Wow.
before they used it.
They don't talk particularly glowingly about Bruce Fairbairn.
No.
They don't slag him by any manner of means, but the suggestion very much is that, well, we produced it, we did it. Bruce was there, and he told us when to be at the studio and
Yes.
what track we were going to do tomorrow. But we produced it. Was basically what came across.
Yes. The other thing, obviously, you had to bring up, and I know you were saying you were feeling nervous, but this is a question you had to ask, and you did it. I thought you did it beautifully when you said, like some other bands, you've changed your singer. You didn't go straight into it, but I don't know how you felt about it and how they responded, Tom. I mean, they seemed slightly, I haven't listened to his music. Was one of the comments, wasn't it?
Yeah. The way I asked the question, I think I was being quite honest. I was saying, well, he was your singer. I would imagine when he brought a new album out, you would be interested enough to give it a listen. But Eddie categorically said, no, I've never listened to any stuff. And then there's a little bit at the end, and he says, I've never listened to any of his stuff. In fact, to be honest, I rarely listen to anything.
Yeah.
In the house, which was surprising. But they didn't slag David, but
no, they didn't. No,
you could hear there was a little bit of an edge to that answer. I thought.
Why did Dave leave? Andy, do you know why did Dave leave Van Halen? Tom, do you know why Dave left Van Halen? I can't remember.
Musical differences.
Yes.
or hey, you shagged my girlfriend last night.
Could be.
Get out.
That's probably more likely, actually, the way they used to behave. But
I loved the bit when we talked about the way that music changes, the fact the music fashion, punk came, comes and goes, and then grunge, and pop rock, etc., etc. And they said, well, hopefully some of our songs will still be around 100 years or 200 years time.
200 years, yeah.
Then they'll be known as classical music.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll happen, but
not quite.
I think they'll still be around. That people will
yeah.
still listen back and say, "Hey, that was a great era." That
Well, the noise that he makes on that guitar is never going to go away. There's never going to be another person that people might be able to play that music. But I mean, the new Dave Lee Roth guy, the guy in the band's great, but he's not Eddie Van Halen. He didn't invent it or rather make it his own. I think he's probably right. And it's funny because there are some, I'm into science fiction, Tom, and there are some quite good sort of utopian futures things that are like, in the year 3000. And there is actually one where they're in a spaceship and the guy's got headphones on, and it's actually Rage Against the Machine he's listening to. And one of the other guys goes, "Oh, look at him listening to classical music again." So you never know. It could be. But when you interview somebody like that, Tom, just again, I'm always really interested in this and how it felt as you being the interviewer, because there you are with these two superstars who. How big were they in the UK? They were quite big in the UK at that point, weren't they? They'd got, because of Jump and stuff, they'd got quite popular. How does it feel when they're so famous and you don't really know them, because we haven't talked about it yet. They don't really play in the UK very often at that point. They still don't. They've never really been a regular here, despite what they said in the interview. They said they'd be here every year, but they haven't done that. How does it feel as the interviewer, and how do you get ready for an interview like that?
You do your homework.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Paul Coyer, when I started the radio back in 1980, and I had my very first interview to do, and it was with Ricky Medlock from Blackfoot. Yeah. And I was quite nervous, and I said to Paul, who Paul was also on the radio and television, and Paul did a lot of interviews,
Mm.
but pop acts or politicians and personalities. And I asked him, I said, I've got an interview to do tomorrow, Paul. I'm really quite nervous about it. What, can you give me any advice? And Paul said, even though Paul had only been doing it for a couple of years, he was still more experienced than I was.
Mhm.
And he said, just do your homework, Tom. Do your homework.
Mhm.
Whatever you do, don't go in and ask the artist how his love life is.
Yeah.
The papers a fortnight ago that he'd just gone through his divorce.
Yes.
Don't make that simple mistake. And that stuck with me right through my career. Haven't always adhered to it 100% as I should have done. There's the odd mistake. In fact, making an arse of asking about that well-known actor John Belushi.
Yeah.
Is what it is in the interview. Would you have known what the Belushi theorem was?
I didn't. I'd never heard of it.
No,
Never
you,
heard of
Andy?
it. No. But I did last week. I did see a post about it. Not that, but I did see a post about a guy standing in front of a model of the Belushi theorem. It is huge. Yeah.
I'd never heard of it, and I was doing the interview, and it just came out.
Me neither.
Is it something to do with John Belushi, the actor? And they looked at me as if I was daft. No, nothing to do with the actor.
See, I'm right. Okay, this might be completely wrong, and I'm just making a fool of myself. I don't believe there's a creature called the Belushi theorem. That doesn't make any sense biologically. So it would be called the Belushi something. It wouldn't be called theorem. That makes no sense.
Belushi. Belushi something.
I've looked it up and I can't find it. So I don't know. Okay. You might have been closer to the truth, Tom, than you think. You never know.
Right.
We need to look that one up. I don't know if anyone knows about this. Let us know, because I am calling something a theorem, an animal, makes no sense in terms of biological taxonomy. Sorry, this is me geeking now. Sorry, but that makes no sense to me at all.
That is geeky.
That is geeky. Sorry,
Hey.
but it doesn't make sense.
This might sound a wee bit precocious, but I was in Los Angeles doing an interview with, in fact, doing two interviews. One with the band Slayer. In fact, three interviews. Slayer, Chris Robinson from Black Crowes, who was at the time they were recording the very first album.
All right, okay.
Total Unknowns, and also Rick Rubin, the producer, and they put me up in a hotel called the Chateau Marmont, which or had been a beautiful old hotel. It was a little bit tired now, but back in the 60s, that was a hotel where all Marilyn Monroe and John Wayne and all these characters used to stay and party. And they showed me this. They gave me this room and a private swimming pool. Each room was a suite with a little swimming pool, about just a plunge pool, really.
Yeah,
outdoors, maybe 8 feet long, 6 feet wide. But you wouldn't go in it. It was covered in green algae.
All right.
Horrible. However, the story. I'm checking into the hotel, and the guy who's checking me in said, "Oh yes, Mr. Russell, I've got your reservation here. You're staying in suite 13B." And I said, "Oh, fine." And he says, "No, you're staying in 13B." And he looked at me as if, why don't you realise the significance of suite 13B? But I went and then got organised, and I went for a walk, and then when I came back, I went into the hotel restaurant for something to eat, and there's only 2 other people in the restaurant. I got chatting to them. One was a cameraman in the movies, and the other one was a sound man in the movies. We're chatting away, and I said to them, I was quite surprised when I checked in. They put me in room 13B. Seemingly, that's the room where something happened. And the cameraman says, "Oh, I'm in room 12C. They told me it was there that it happened." And the sound man said, "Wait a minute, I just gave him a $5 tip because he put me in room 11D. Is that where it happened?" And I'm sitting there in this restaurant, totally ignorant of the fact that that was the hotel where John Belushi blew his head off with a shotgun.
Really? Oh gosh.
Oh,
So the
wow.
guy at reception was looking for a tip. Everybody that came in said, "You're in the room that John Belushi killed himself in, hoping to get a tip." Whether it was true or not, nothing to do with Van Halen.
No, this is the gold though. This is why we do this, because it gets these stories out of you, Tom. That's fantastic wee story. I love it.
I loved a question that I used to ask in my career quite often.
Yeah.
Would be about the sleeve of an album. Sometimes sleeves, as you know, are extremely interesting.
Yeah.
Other times they're obscure, sometimes boring. But the Balance album sleeve was fascinating
Yeah.
with the Siamese twins there. And I asked them about that, and it was a good answer they gave me for that.
Yes.
I think it was Alex that talked about that.
It was about balancing a number of things, including music and life, and then they got talking about the earth, didn't they, and about how we should be looking after the earth, and this wasn't their normal thing. But yeah, I thought it was interesting as well. I've looked at the album cover because of that, Tom, and I'm not sure it would be allowed now. I mean, it's not sexual or anything. It's just that it's using children in that sort of way in albums. I think it's frowned upon these days. But yeah, that was an interesting thing. Again, it was another thing that I mean, I was out walking when I was listening to this interview, and I thought, gosh, I'd never really thought about Van Halen in that terms of you know saying anything that meant anything apart from where am I getting my next beer and my next snog. It was always that sort of vibe.
Yeah.
But right enough, they did change, didn't they?
That might have been Sammy Hagar's influence, maybe
Could
a little bit.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I wonder. A question I would have liked to have, and you did actually ask it, but they didn't really answer it. Was because Sammy is not a man with a small ego, and he's a good writer and a really good guitar player. I wonder how they integrated him into the band in terms of songwriting, because he's obviously a very accomplished muso and has continued to be. I wonder how it worked, because his talent went beyond being a frontman.
That's the sort of question that I would love to have asked. If I'd thought of it, I would have loved to have asked that question. And possibly if I had a second interview with them, maybe a couple of years later, with Sammy and Eddie together, I might have asked that question. But I never did.
Well, don't forget to ask it.
A couple of years later, I got an interview with Sammy on his own. I haven't found that interview yet, but that would have been a good question.
I thought it was a bit not strange, but I just thought it was like a new thing, because they said you asked them, looking at the writing credits, that some of the songs were credited to all the band, and they didn't really do that. It was either Dave Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen usually.
Right.
So they didn't really split that.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I just thought that might have been a thing that happened when Sammy came in. He went, "Hey, Alex Van Halen, sorry, Michael Anthony's doing he's doing the heavy lifting as well, so get him in
Maybe
the credits."
That's why Michael left. Maybe he wasn't getting, even though he was adding bits to the bass. This happened with so many of the bands in the rock world and the pop world, and country world. The person that does the majority of the writing tends to get the publishing credits.
Yes.
An awful lot of money, and the drummer or the bass player or whatever that contributes gets hee-haw.
I've always thought that the Van Halen and Sammy recognised this, because Michael Anthony was also a fantastic singer. And I don't know if you've heard, Andy and I have spoken about this before, but there's a version of Highway Star by Deep Purple that Chickenfoot did. And the scream at the beginning that Gillan did? Well, Anthony and Hagar did that together on that live recording. It's absolutely fantastic. It's spine-tinglingly good, and I think and I was funny. I was listening to the album earlier, and some of the bass playing, it's very simplistic, the bass playing, but some of it is really quick. Like, brrr, it's almost like he's got a machine on the bass. Don't you heard it recently, guys? But it's really interesting, the bass playing, the style of it. It's typical bass from a rock band, a classic type of rock band, on dun 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 dun. But the pace is like maybe 3 or 4 beats a second. It's so fast, that guy. So I think he was a really important part of Van Halen. And you can hear it, as I say, in the Chicken Feet music.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
important he is. He's really good. That guy, really, really good.
Yeah, well, without Van Halen, without his backing vocals,
Yeah.
and Eddie's backing vocals, it would have sounded way, way different.
Yeah, mate. Absolutely. Totally agree.
Well, as always,
Yeah.
if anyone would like to, I can never remember the word. What is it? Or pressing the button.
DM.
Subscribe.
No, if you want to ask us a question, please drop us a direct message or subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe.
subscribe.
That was the word. How come every week I forget that?
It's one of them things.
Just this happens, Tom. It's like I can't spell the word Q because it doesn't make any sense to me that it's not just a letter Q.
Yeah.
It's like, why is it a word and not just a letter? Does my head in. So yeah, some things are harder.
I'm just hoping that as I reach my my advancing years, when I forget things like that, for example, I'd like to think that it's not dementia that's coming along. The fact that I know that I've forgotten something, hopefully that means that it's no dementia, it's just old age.
Well, the way my one of my lecturers used to describe it, he was a very well-known scientist, and he used to say the brain is like a filing cabinet, and when you're young, it's empty, so it's dead easy to remember stuff. But as you get older, there's a lot in that filing cabinet, and it just takes a little bit longer to find it. It's still there, just takes a little bit longer to find it. And I think that's quite a sweet way of describing how it works, and it's pretty much true as well.
It's miraculous, the brain. When you think about it, it's absolutely miraculous.
Ridiculous. Some more than others.
Aye. However, that's it for today. So hopefully you have enjoyed our podcast, Access All Areas, the Tom Russell tapes. We'll be back on next week with some more of the same. Hopefully you'll join us for then. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Tom. Week. That was fabulous.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye, everyone.
Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast. We've got lots more already recorded and lots more still to do. I've been rummaging in my loft, in my attic on a regular basis. So if you'd like to subscribe, it costs you nothing. Just press the button that says subscribe and we'll tell you when the next one's coming up. Thanks for watching and listening.